Hello, hello, everybody. This is Nick Finelli with the Charlotte FC podcast, and we're starting our Thursday match day previews called First Sip. And that first sip, that first taste of what's going to happen over the weekend is going to be with Jessica Charman. Welcome, Jess.
Hello, I'm excited to be back. It feels like forever, but also just like yesterday that we were chatting about last season. So
I
time
know.
flies.
Yes. So you drew the good stick here because MLS is back. Jess, this isn't just a game. You're with the prime game. Like this is the first game on MLS on Apple TV, free, so everybody can see it in the whole world. It's the only game. Like you're the first one to kick off this season. How does that feel?
Wow. Yeah, honestly, Nick, I figured this out maybe 2 weeks ago that I was opening the entire season because I saw the 2:30 p.m. kickoff and I was like, maybe a lot of the games are starting early or something. It wasn't until I started to get into the weeds of my prep work last week and I was like, oh. Oh, and then I was like starting to think how I'm going to word it. Oh, the 2026 MLS season is underway. And it's amazing that they've trusted me with this responsibility, first and foremost, because it is a big deal being the first game and being at such a unique time that overseas. It's amazing. My dad is so excited because it's a great kickoff time for him. It's
Hmm.
going to be before everyone else's, so it's going to be a first taste. So, I mean, all eyes on us. And you mentioned it, the fact that the paywall in terms of season pass has been removed and now you can just watch it on Apple TV. Great year for us. And in a World Cup year as well to kick off the US domestic league. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
kind of cool. Not gonna
pretty
lie,
incredible.
really cool.
So let's look at the match. Why is St. Louis versus Charlotte the perfect way to pull the curtain back on this MLS season?
Oh, I think it's going to be so interesting because you've got Dean Smith and Charlotte FC who have consistency. You know what to expect. It's a team that's coming off a fantastic season in terms of the run that they had with the unbeaten run, the win streak, but then disappointment right at the end. I mean, those playoff games, sorry to bring it up, Charlotte FC fans, but I mean, number one, they were very difficult to watch just from an entertainment standpoint. And number two, heartbreak for Charlotte FC fans. So this is a game for them where there's a point to prove. They want to get off to a good start. Historically, haven't been brilliant in first games of the season versus the St. Louis side, which, I mean, when I talk about being difficult to prep for, when you have a brand new manager who is not only brand new in terms of St. Louis, but is relatively brand new to head coaching. Of course, he's
Right.
had some interim roles, has had some jobs in the USL, but he's still so young himself in Johan de May that it is unexpected. And I had an opportunity to talk to him today, and he literally said, I kind of like the fact that we are an unknown. So you've got tried and tested in Charlotte, where yes, there's a few fine tunings, but still 10 out of 11 starters returning from the end of last season
Hmm.
versus unknown. It's going to
Hmm.
be awesome. And in a soccer specific stadium. I mean, Energizer Park looks, I've not been, but it looks really cool. Like, I'm not going to lie, I'm excited to go.
Yeah, and I mean the name is appropriate because Energizer, I mean, they bring some energy, and I
But
know
I
that
think
first
Charlotte
season
have
was.
got, I've heard several Charlotte FC fans that I know are traveling. I think there'll be a good little pack, as always, of blue for the crown in the stadium.
Yeah. So what do you think? Because like you talked about, we know what Charlotte's going to do. Charlotte even knows they're not even going to worry about the opponent. Like they're just going to try to play their game. But what do you expect to see like in that first 20 minutes to give you a clue like, oh, this is what's going on?
Yeah, it's interesting because DeMay also said he thinks there's going to be some nervousness early on from St. Louis just because you're finding your footsteps. They've played some non-competitive games. Obviously, they played in Coachella, remotely competitive, but still pre-season. So I think it's about getting off to a bright start for both these two teams, getting out the nerves, getting out the rust. I mean, nerves is a word that a lot of players have used. I saw on social media Tim Ream in a press conference with Charlotte today using the word nervous. I mean, if Tim Ream is still getting nervous at his stage of his career, that tells you that, it's a very normal feeling. I expect to see St. Louis want to try and possess the ball, but when they don't have the ball, press high. Where I think Charlotte has a tactical where I think they can exploit is in the wide play. Because from what we've seen of St. Louis right now, they're going to play quite narrow with three centre backs, which means width. And what does Charlotte FC thrive in? A lot of the time, those flanks with Wilfred Zaha and Lila Abada or Cohen Vargas. So I think that's where this game is going to see a lot of play go.
Do you think St. Louis might sit a little bit because Charlotte has not been known to be great on the ball, and that's one thing Dean mentioned in his press conference before this match that They need to be better with the ball as opposed to playing without the ball.
They do. They need to be crisper in possession, right? Because there were several moments where there was a lot of turnovers. St. Louis has used the word, and I think this is maybe as an English major, like communications major, I love it. They've used the word protagonist, that they want to be the protagonist of their story a lot. So that's where I think maybe they won't sit deep and be like, have the ball break down. Because from everything that Johan de May is saying, and maybe he's throwing red herrings at the media, letting Charlotte think something
Right.
or another, we know that coach talk is coach talk at the end of the day. But I think they're going to want to, in their own stadium, in their home opener, in this new era, because it's a new era, not just with the coach, but with the sporting director, with a lot of the front office, with
Hmm.
players as well. I think they're going to want to have the ball and try and take on Charlotte in ways. And then perhaps once they get the ball, they say they want to press high, which we'll see how that goes. Because if they do press high, there's the risk of, hey, Route One football for Charlotte FC to catch them on the break.
Yeah. Now, when you look in the booth and you think about calling, like, do you have a certain player, maybe from each club on the pitch that you've been watching, like anticipating? You're like, you know what, this is the player that's going to force your big goal voice, and
Oh,
what do you
well,
anticipate there?
well, I want redemption for Idan Toklamati. I like my goal call on Idan Toklamati, but it was the goal call where he twerked. And I'm disappointed because from where I was at, I couldn't see the twerk, which is why it was probably a good thing that I couldn't
Right.
because I wasn't under contract yet with Apple. And maybe if I'd have said something about twerking, I might have not got a contract. So maybe it was a good thing. But I'll always feel frustrated that I didn't glance at my monitor and see the celebration because I was too busy
Hmm.
calling it. So I mean, if he could score one of those half bikes that we saw in Coachella, that would
That
be
was
pretty
smooth.
cool.
Yeah.
And I just love calling Wilfred Zaha in and around the box. I had a great opportunity to call him in Montreal, or it was in Charlotte against Montreal, where he I think I said left the defenders rooted in the spots or shadows or something. I loved it. So he just excites me. For St. Louis, there's a guy called Simon Betcher, and he is going to be filling the boots of João Klaus right now. They've
Hmm.
lost their franchise face, they've lost their top scorer. Last season, he underachieved his XG significantly. I mean, he would get into great areas on the pitch, but he wasn't finishing them. From a human perspective, when a player like that has a rough season and they're coming back under a new coach,
Hmm.
there's that element of if he can get on the ball, something really cool can happen. And I think he's a sort of one that will brush the dust off his shoulders and be like, okay, new season, new me.
Right. Well, you've called a lot of historical games, and we can call this historical since it's the first one. You were Charlotte day one. What's the most season opening chaos that you've dealt with in the broadcast booth?
Oh, season opening chaos. The I guess keep it Charlotte related. When Will and I were calling the actual Charlotte FC first game, DC United, a free kick was it a free kick that was scored and then the goal was pulled back and trying to figure out there was this big moment and then the goal was called back and the heartbreak and you're getting up for a big moment of history and then the goal gets called back for VAR and doing all of that whilst it was the first time I'd ever called a game off of a monitor. Yeah, definitely was the first game I ever called a game off a monitor. So that was a whole learning call, a whole new animal. So
Right.
that was definitely probably one of the most chaotic things. My heart was beating through my chest the whole time because it was the first time I'd ever done a game properly with Will. It was the first time I'd ever done like a full radio game.
Hmm.
So just that feeling of the blood pumping through the veins. And I always say, if you're nervous and your heart is beating, it means you're alive. And I love that feeling. I've started to learn to embrace that feeling. At first, when I felt that, like, I mean, when I put those headphones on and I hear the Apple music, and everyone that's listened to the games knows there's
Hmm.
like da 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 da
Yeah.
da. When I hear that, my heart is beating with it. And now I love that feeling, but I'm ready to feel it again because I think it's going to be the most intense it's ever been getting ready for this one, just because of what this game means from a professional standpoint for me.
Right. And also it kicks off so much soccer, football in the US for
I mean, it's
2026.
the
It's
year.
huge.
Yeah, it's just this is a year that can do incredible things for soccer in the US if it's done correctly.
Yeah. So tell me what it means them being asking you to say, hey, we want you to start, be with us again at MLS, and do these games. But like, what did you learn from last year's experience now that you're like, okay, I'm more of a veteran now?
Yeah, I mean, I would still consider myself a pretty raw and new play-by-play just based on the difference in the ages of me and the majority of the commentators.
Hmm.
It meant a lot to be trusted with that consistency because it's one thing covering a league and kind of floating in and out and covering people, and you're doing your best to keep your eyes on the league, but at the same time you're being pulled from pillar to post to all these other leagues, to all these other ways of,
Hmm.
making a living. And now I can really put all my eggs in this basket and focus fully on the league and be following the storylines at another level. I think it's really special because this is obviously a league that I've followed since I arrived in the United States back in 2013. And I've always had this idea. And I think we talked about it last time when I had a 5 year plan when I left Charlotte. And that five
Hmm.
year plan has become very accelerated. It's an element of trust, which is amazing when someone puts that trust in you and believes in you and wants to give you every opportunity possible. So that trust motivates me to never take it for granted. And there's a level of humility that I have to maintain at all times because I think it'd be very easy to be like, okay, I'm under contract. Okay, they want me to do
Hmm.
XYZ games and to let it get to your head. And that's never who I am. I'm still the person that climbed a ladder. And I put it in my LinkedIn post. I'm still the person that climbed a ladder after a women's soccer game that I played with mud on my knees to climb a ladder to commentate a Division 2 soccer game.
Yeah.
And I always want to remember that feeling of what I wanted to do to continue to grow as a human. And I'm never going to be the complete product. I don't think we ever can be, right? We can always
Hmm.
get better, whether it's fine tuning a goal call, whether it's fine tuning timing, whether it's wordplay, or for me right now, one of my main focuses is making sure I don't fall back on crutch words because we all have crutch words that we
Yeah.
listen back. And it's not until you listen back to a highlight reel, you're making a highlight reel, and you're like, oh, I really said this word too
Hmm.
often.
Hmm.
So just removing those and fine tuning and tweaking things. And it's easier to fine tune and tweak things when you know someone believes in you to do so.
Yeah. And speaking of new things, and you have a new person up in the booth doing an analysis with you. It's Ian Joy, who worked with the MLS last season, but also was a NYFC analyst for a long time and a longtime player. Played in England and Scotland, and I think even in Germany.
Yeah, Ian is just a fantastic human, first and foremost. I had the opportunity to commentate a game with him back in, actually, it was my first game I did on the road, my first one where I got to travel to the stadium in Chicago. And he's just a fantastic human being, which is the number one thing. It's easy to work with somebody that's likable and kind, and most importantly, respectful, which I think is very important. I think when you're a female in the booth and you're with a male partner, you want to make sure that they trust you. Sometimes there
Hmm.
can be an element of mansplaining. I've heard it in, not to name any broadcast, but
Right.
everybody's heard a broadcast where that's happened, or there's been a
Right.
weird power struggle. Never with Ian, which is amazing. He sees the game in a fantastic way. He's a defender, so I think we have a little bit of defensive bias between a goalkeeper and a
Hmm.
defender, but he brings great energy to a broadcast, which is all you can ask. I will give a note on Case, obviously. Casey, who is my partner, and not only my partner, but my friend, most importantly, first and foremost. She's back, which is incredible. And now, we made a fantastic duo. We're going the opposite ways, but we're still rooting for each other, and she's going to do a brilliant job. And if we talk representation, obviously I'm the only female play-by-play in the league, but there's very few women analysts as well. So to split us up and
Hmm.
more people have an opportunity to see what a woman in sports can do at this level as well.
Yeah, and as play-by-play as the goalie, you're used to kind of calling the shots. So I'm sure Ian will be fall right in line. He's the
Well,
defender. He's going to do what his goalie says.
he better do. I mean, Ian, and I said I would tell the story, so I do it. Ian has seen me at my very worst. The first ever game I commentated on site in Chicago, I got food poisoning the night before.
Mm.
And so I was commentating a game with food poisoning. And that's when we knew we'd be able to work together and it would be good because there was one moment, and you would never know it if you listen back to the game. I'm very proud of that. But there was definitely a moment where I had to leave the booth right before he came back on air, and Ian was able to handle the ad read, and I came back on seamlessly after having a little quick chunder in the restroom. So
Yeah.
shout out Ian, and I'm excited because this is going to be the first game we get to call together where I don't feel like death. So I'm very excited about that. Hey, I've got to knock some wood now though, because I'm
Yeah.
going to be very careful what I eat on the way to the airport tomorrow.
Anything in St. Louis you're going to do personally? visit?
I
I know
have to
it's
take a
always fun.
selfie with the arch, right? The
Yeah,
arch, and I've heard the barbecue food is very good. Is that correct?
yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm not very cultured right now with the United States. I'll be completely honest. A lot of these places that are on my schedule, I'm visiting for the first time. So I've reached out to a couple of the St. Louis local media and said,
Hmm.
hey, like, can you recommend anywhere? So I know the Arch, though, is the iconic view, and I'm going to do a better job this season of posting stuff on social media of the journeys because I feel like it's a cool thing, but it's
Hmm.
really it's out my comfort zone. But we said growth, right, Nick? So this is a good
Yeah.
way for me to grow too.
All right. Last thing before you leave, I don't want you. I know you don't need to give a score because a prediction. You're calling the game. You're even. But what is maybe like a headline or a moment that we'll talk about Sunday morning about the match? Maybe some sort of bold prediction, but not a score line.
I think the game is won or lost in the wide areas of the pitch, and I would say I love the storyline that both goalkeepers are amazing, but I think that's too predictable, and both of them are going to have to make errors. So I'd say this game is won or lost in the wide areas of the pitch, and that it's a high scoring game. I think I'm going to get a lot of goal calls. I think the attack shines in this game over the defense. How about that? Which is terrible as a goalkeeper, but it's good
That
as a broadcaster.
that sometimes happens, or they don't take chances, and it'll be like
If
no
it's nil
scores.
nil, I'm not going to be happy that I said this now. But I don't. That's it. This game will not be nil nil. There you go.
All right. Well, massive thanks to you, Jessica Charman, for joining us on the first sip. You can catch her and Ian Joy on the call Saturday, where MLS is back. The season opener, Charlotte FC travels to St. Louis. Kickoff is at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 Central. Streaming live and free on Apple TV. Thanks, Jess.
Thank you.